It is a presentation of The Hockey Shop, source for sports story, thehockeyshop.com. This is In Goal Radio, the podcast with the co-founders of In Goal Magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Hi, everybody. I'm Darren Millard, and we are excited to talk about a great individual accomplishment in the National Hockey League this week. We will also get into a new measure of rating goaltenders, and it's through analytics, and it's through the goaltending community, and it's fascinating stuff that, quite frankly, and in total upfront honesty, I'm still getting my head around. And we will also get into another goaltender playing without a significant piece of equipment. It happened again on the heels of Thatcher Demko playing without the blocker. But let's say hello to the guys, and we're sneaking up on Black Friday. So what's happening over at the Hockey Shop as we tee up Cam and company for the gear segment in a bit?
Well, if you happen to subscribe to their newsletter, and if you don't, I would suggest you go to thehockeyshop.com, and you should get prompted on first visit to sign up for the newsletter. I believe they even offer prizing the first time you sign up. You're eligible to win for contests. Yes, surprise face, Darren. You probably signed up long ago and forgot. You may not be eligible to win, however. But the rest of you are. The rest of you are. So go sign up on the newsletter. And if you had signed up for the newsletter, you would know that some of the items that are going to be on sale on Black Friday are already starting to be, they're sort of releasing some of the details, and they'll trickle that out over time. So stay tuned there, and stay tuned to all their social media and website, because all the details are going to come out ahead of Black Friday. And as we said last week, and would like to remind you this week, it's not just about saving money on some of the gear that they have in stock. It may, for a lot of you, be your best opportunity to get the Christmas gift you want under the tree in time. The reality of today's world with shipping and supply chain and a lot of the things that are going on in terms of getting things means you need to think ahead. So Black Friday isn't just to save money, it's to make sure the goalies in your life have what they want under the tree on Christmas morning. You really do need to be thinking ahead to that degree. And why not save some money at the same time? So stay tuned here, stay tuned to all their social media channels, and I would highly recommend going to thehockeyshop.com and signing up for their newsletter so you can get heads up and advance warning on all the great sales that are coming for Black Friday at the Hockey Shop, and use it to get your Christmas presents on time and under the tree for the goalie in your life.
You know, as a person that goes through my inbox daily and then getting rid of all the different emails that I subscribe to, and then once a week trying to unsubscribe to things, the Hockey Shop newsletter is fun. I see that because it doesn't bombard you. And when the sale, and you do get one, you know there's a reason for it, and you click on it and you get to peruse. So it's a really positive part of the inbox compared to all the other blah, 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 blah. You know,
you mean like all the, do you just like search K Woodley at ingoalmag.com and then just like they all come up and you just select all and delete, don't you? That's why I don't hear back from you. I'm going to the junk mail.
It might have something to do with that. You know, you might even skip the junk and just go trash.
I just go straight to trash. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
No, kids don't email anymore. What do you got to get with the time? Start texting or Snapchatting Darren now. I bet you if you snap him, you'll get him.
You know what the new thing is? Voice memo texting. So you record your voice and you send it, because nobody can screenshot it, and they play it and it deletes. That's the new thing that all the cool people are using.
See, I have issues with that. I find that I find those difficult. I don't actually do it when I get them. For some reason too, I'm also often in my car, like the 7-game homestand. I think I lived in my car. So like Apple CarPlay doesn't give you the option to play the voice text, I don't think. At least I've had trouble with that in the past. So there's my complaint to the world. All you kids think you're cool. You're just being a pain in the ass for us old folks.
Hey,
Woody, you start sending voice memos, our phones are going to run out of memory in the first or second message you send us anyway. So
who's
got time to listen to your voice memos?
Ben Bishop of the Dallas Stars is our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena. And this is a really cool interview because there's a lot of questions about what Ben's up to right now. And because he didn't play at all last season. And this is just a neat conversation that Woody has with the Dallas Stars netminder about his background in goaltending and a little bit about what the future holds. I'm looking forward to this, Woody.
Yeah, I just lucky to, when the Stars came through town, to be honest, wasn't planning it because I think probably like a lot of people, I didn't realize like Ben is traveling with the team. He is practicing on an almost daily basis with the team. He looks pretty good. And so a lot of questions about what that means when he comes back with Hudobin and Holtby already there. And of course, Jake Oettinger also is in the minor leagues already after playing last season in the National Hockey League. So a lot of depth for the Dallas Stars, but it comes with a lot of questions. And Ben sort of catches us up on where he's at. But then for the most part, we just get into his path to pro and a lot of great lessons about, how he's become a great puck handler. Saw some examples of that in practice, the extra work he puts in, not having a goalie coach, like a true technical goalie coach till he was in the American Hockey League. And so just a guy who came up with some different roots, played a lot of different sports growing up. His grandpa was a pro tennis player, just a good conversation about goaltending and sports and everything. And so thanks to Ben and thanks for the Dallas Stars for making him available. Despite the fact that technically he's on LTIR, they gave him the option and he took it and sat down and we had a great chat.
Yeah, and when you listen to it, you will really appreciate how good of a guy he is. The gear segment today deals with the Vaughn SLR2 sale. We will get to that in just a second, but first an update on a few things happening in and around the goalie world. And Zach Fucale, I don't know who wants to take this first, but this is one of the great stories in our world of stopping pucks, Hutch.
Yeah, it sure is. We've been huge fans of Zach ever since he appeared on the podcast. And Woody, I'm going to get this one wrong again. Episode 96, was it? Zach joined us and had a great chat. Really loved just how open he was about what he'd been through. And what he's been through is 7 years as a pro before getting his first NHL start last night, his first win, his first shutout. How awesome was it to see the reception when he walked into the room with all the boys greeting him? Huge fans just because of how open he was about what he'd been through sort of emotionally, because like here's a guy who was World Junior goaltender for Canada. He was drafted by his hometown Montreal Canadiens in the second round. This is sort of the golden boy coming out of junior who'd done everything you could do really as a major junior goaltender. And stardom, I think, was expected, especially the market that he was going into. And as we all know, it's been a long road for him, entirely in the East Coast and American League. But Zach has pushed through, persevered, and shown that he could do it. And an awesome story in that respect. But I think, guys, it really highlights something that we've talked about on here before. I saw Marty Biron make a comment on Twitter this morning about it. The fact that we expect so much of these young men when they come out of major junior hockey at 18, 19, 20 years of age. And if they haven't sort of shown that they're ready to make that leap to the National Hockey League by 21, 22, the Canadians and Americans are sort of considered to be, I don't want to say washouts, because Zach has certainly proven that's not the case at all, but they don't get the same opportunities anymore. They get just sort of cast aside. And then a Euro goalie can come in after getting time to develop over in their professional leagues at 23, 24, 25 years of age, and they get all kinds of chances. So there's something about the way we're developing goaltenders here in Canada and the United States that I think isn't giving enough chances to these kids. At the same time, kudos to Zach Fucale for pushing through all that, making his appearance, and I'm sure it's not going to be his last appearance, Kevin.
Yeah, Sense Arena user Zach Fucale. Congratulations.
There you go.
Parents in the stands as well. 8 years after he was drafted. First goalie taken in that draft in 2013. So yeah, second round, but first goalie taken. And I think a lot of what you talk about there is, to me, it's all about the expectations that come with the draft pick. And then the fact that they're sort of in the public eye in those opportunities in the American Hockey League so much more. Whereas a goalie in Europe, you can play in your domestic leagues and largely, I would say ignored, but look at Yaroslav Askarov of the Nashville Predators. He was like a super high pick just 2 years ago. And how much do you hear about his play in the Continental Hockey League right now? Like, I'm sure he's doing well, but I'd be honest with you, I haven't checked. If he wasn't doing well, it wouldn't be getting the attention that Fucale would, say, struggling a couple of years after his draft to acclimatize to pro would get. So I think that's part of it. Obviously, it's Montreal as well. So, but again, he was heading, when you talked to him for the podcast, and it was one of my favorite interviews that we've had on here. 96.
Okay.
And Hutch did that one, so that's why it was so good. He handled that interview. That's why it's one of the best ones. He was just starting with the Washington Capitals at the time, and I was excited for him because I saw some synergies between some of the sort of things that he did at World Junior and some of the coaching he had for the first time at World Junior with Team Canada, and some of the exposure he had to some of the things that Scotty also has an emphasis on. And the other guy that deserves a ton of credit here, we talk about the Washington Capitals, and obviously the focus goes to Scott Murray, but Alex Westland, the goaltending coach in Hershey for the Washington Capitals, their American League and development goalie coach with the Capitals, a guy who has been on the short list for NHL jobs since, and will be in the NHL, I think, in the near future, also playing a big role in, helping create what is, look at what they've done there in Washington. Vitek Vanacek, a guy that a lot of people had overlooked, started in the East Coast League, now in the National Hockey League. They've developed guys there in Washington. So when he went there, I felt good about his chances of maybe wasn't sure he'd get to this stage, but you knew they'd give him a real chance to properly develop. And here we are, it pays dividends.
Two things about the draft there. One is I may have knocked our development system in North America here a little bit, but the other thing that comes out of that, as the first goaltender drafted in his draft year, I think Zach's probably gotten a lot more chances than other kids would have been. It would have been a lot worse if you'd been drafted in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and then you didn't make it as quickly as you should have. The opportunities that are given to the higher draft picks, obviously more than most, although Zach has certainly gone well beyond taking advantage of those opportunities. He's just an incredible situation there. But the other piece, Kevin, I think that you mentioned that is so important that often gets overlooked is people rate National Hockey League teams' drafts based on how far the players move along in their career, and they forget that incredibly important component, which is development. It's not just draft success, it's draft and development. If Zach had been given the opportunity with another organization, would he been as successful? It's a partnership there between the coaches, the organization, and the goaltender, and kudos to everybody for making that happen.
Zach McCauley has played more ECHL games than he has American Hockey League games. That's the road that he took. And perseverance is one thing. Owning it is another. He talks about that in your conversation with him, David. It's just that's the type of path that you would expect somebody who's a 5th round pick, 6th round pick to have to take. So to eat it and own it and persevere through it and come out on the other end. I don't know how many games he's going to play. I hope he plays a ton, but that's a really cool story. And what I liked the most about it was his comments on just the journey that he took.
It was a very challenging journey, and I loved in our conversation how he opened up about that and how he opened up about the importance of being able to lean on somebody else when you're struggling. It's we hadn't really been exposed to a lot of the topics that have been up recently around mental health and so on. But I think Zach was certainly alluding to that about the importance of, as a young hockey player, being able to reach out and speak to somebody. And I think young players are, in many respects, scared to talk to anybody. You know that the people that surround you from a hockey sense have so much control over your career and what happens next that all you really want to do is put your head down and sort of persevere. And it's a challenge to tell people how you're feeling because you're worried about, do I get that next start? Do I get that next opportunity? So having somebody in your life that you can reach out to and just talk to when things are getting tough. And I'm not alluding to anything particularly dark here for Zach. It's just those struggles of getting through when things aren't maybe developing quite as quickly as you would expect them to. So, that was one of my favorite interviews. And as we said, we're just really happy for Zach and hope that this is not only the first of many for him, but maybe a good example for other goaltenders and other organizations that opportunities need to be given and time needs to be given for development.
I think it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to work out. He was drafted by Montreal in the 2nd round, and he ends up playing his first game and wins in a sweater with the red, white, and blue. And he posts a win and he posts a shutout. So a top prospect, he wins in the red, white, and blue, and he gets the shutout. There was just a bunch of years in between, and a different organization. But in the end, it's exactly the way it was planned. No.
Sure.
Yeah, come on.
Probably not quite the route he would have
No.
wanted, but I bet you today that's all water under the bridge, and he's probably just having a great time enjoying the moment. I hope he is.
We saw Thatcher Demko play without a blocker last week, and he made a couple of sensational stops and was diving all over the place and making adjustments on the fly to take away the short side and move over. That was cool. And did Andrei Vasilevsky feel a little bit left out because that all this attention that Thatcher Demko was getting, Woody?
Yeah, he definitely did the same thing. Lost a skate blade on a point shot that just kind of kicked off the toe. You see the skate blade go flying away, and there was a sprawling save at the beginning, and then he just sort of got back up over his knees, stayed between his posts, and anchored himself, sort of using his arms to hold it there. So the rule applies the same, folks. If you lose a skate blade, if you lose a glove, anything but the helmet, they aren't blowing the whistle till your team gets the puck. And even then, I'm not even sure. Like, I don't even know if it's like an injury where once your team gets the puck, we'll blow it. Like, they should actually have to force a whistle before you're supposed to. Like, technically, the refs actually give both guys a break just by whistling it when there was possession. Technically, the game has to come to a natural stoppage before you're supposed to get that whistle. So, once again, equipment and goaltenders in the spotlight, and Vasi handling it like he does most things exceptionally well.
Except he looked a little bit like Milhouse there, didn't he? A little bit like Milhouse from The Simpsons, tied to all four corners, but another example of his incredible athleticism that he was able to work through that. I'm not sure there's a lot of goaltenders at any level, including the National Hockey League, that could anchor both feet on either post and be able to play as he was. I do think it's a misconception, guys. Like, we had a bit of an argument, Darren, yourself and mine, very good-natured last week, about whether the whistle should have gone when Demko lost his blocker. I did see some people commenting that, oh, no, the rule's the same as it is with the gloves. They should have blown the whistle there because it's a danger. And as Woody pointed out, guys, it's the rule, in fact, is only when the helmet comes off does the referee have to blow the whistle. I'd like to see a little bit of latitude given to the officials so that if they did sense that there was some danger there to the goaltender, that they would be able to blow the whistle. I don't think it's as great a danger with the skate blade, but you could imagine that you're stuck facing the wrong direction and unable to move and about to take a shot to the back of the head or something. But yeah, no, I like the rule the way it is. And I agree with Woody. They should have had to come to a natural conclusion, a natural freeze before the play was stopped.
Well, that is the referee giving discretion by allowing them to have the whistle at possession, I guess. Enough. And you're right. The only time it's dangerous, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Didn't we have one in the preseason where the goalie sort of slid across, hit his post? It came out when he got to his post. So now he's outside his crease, and he was actually facing the corner because his momentum had taken him there. And he'd lost a blade, and he just kept trying to push with this no blade leg, and he couldn't rotate back into the crease. And he was basically stuck outside his net facing the wrong way. That's about the only time I see it as dangerous, is if you take a shot to the backside because there is no protection there. And in his case, I guess he was fortunate that he wasn't in the net because they scored into an empty net rather than to the backside of him. So for the most part, I kind of look at it like this is the risk of the gear a little bit, not to go against the goalie union card, but if you got a blade that can pop out, and if you're going to lose your block, like, this is just the way it goes.
You're worried about goalie safety and looking the wrong way or being in a vulnerable position. Go look at clips of Murray Bannerman playing the Oilers back in the day. Like, he was all over the place, making saves and diving across, and he was wearing the form-fitting mask at that time as well. But I understand what everybody's saying, but after the momentary realization that trying to figure out what was going on, Vasilevsky handled it about as well as you could ever handle it. I know that he can get his feet out to both posts, but boy, just from a poise perspective, Hutch, it was calm, cool, and he realized what he had to do, and he just went into adaptation mode.
Another day at the office. Yeah. No, it reminds me of some discussions we've had in the past about, I think we call recovery skating. You know, what happens when you end up somewhere that doesn't fit the goalie school mode, and then you have to find a way back into the net and a way to play under a difficult circumstance. Now, in that case, I'm talking about just positionally, but yeah, that ability to throw it all away and just be an athlete and just play is something that separates him from all others. But in general separates the great goaltenders from the merely good, or as Kevin has talked about before, the goalie school goalies.
Do you think a goalie coach is going to make somebody practice that? at some point?
Probably not that one, but we saw a great presentation from David Alexander at the Network Goaltending Symposium many years ago in Wisconsin. And he was talking about recovery skating and showed some video where I can't remember who the goaltender was at the time, Woody, but
would have been Jake Allen. It was Jake Allen.
Was it Jake Allen? And he would make do a crease movement, fall into the butterfly, and then Allen would just sort of jam at one pad or the other to spin him in a different direction, something he doesn't anticipate, and then he's got to go from there back to his post in the RVH or whatever the appropriate recovery might be. So learning that you're going to get bang crashed in any game at any level, and you've got to be able to recover from those situations. So that certainly practiced. Doubt anybody's going out there without a blade in their skate, Darren, but
Yes,
hey,
put
you
tape
never know.
on your blades. That's the way you simulate
Well, that's your
it.
teammates doing that, right?
Exactly.
Has that ever happened to you?
The old prank, which is one of the most dangerous pranks ever, and they still do it.
Yeah. It's my one of my most embarrassing moments. I actually got to go out for it was just a kids camp, but it was under the Hockey Canada brand, so it was actually pretty exciting for me to step on the ice for something branded Hockey Canada. And I stepped on the ice and fell flat on my face because, of course, I'd left my skate guards on. Did save the camera, though. Did save the very expensive camera. And, I've got no pride anyway. It doesn't matter.
I've been there, done that too. It happened a couple of years ago as well. You're doomed for it. Woody, you ever do that, or was it just like skating?
Yeah, no, for me, it's just actually standing on the ice in any equipment that causes me to fall. Actually, like, jokes aside, we talk about equipment and how, detailed and dialed we often get with our reviews. CCM skates, which I'm in right now and have been for a while, have a very, they have a forward pitch, but compared to Bauer, it's more neutral. So they all have forward pitch, but it's less of a forward pitch. The last time I went back to a Bauer skate, which I'd worn for years and loved their skates too, but I'd gotten so accustomed to the more neutral pitch of the CCM that I had to, we did a photo shoot for Bauer gear, and I put back on the Bauer Supreme skates, and they were pitched so far forward in my mind, or at least in the balance point that I had gotten comfortable with, that as soon as I got out there, it was like I had toe picked. It took me 5 minutes to get comfortable. Like my normal stance, it felt like I was nose to the ice. And to be quite honest, once I did end up with my nose on the ice, because it just felt so different. And again, you get used to it pretty quick, but that all it can take is a little bit of that change in pitch, and that's enough to send me like a deer on ice, just flailing everywhere. Or thanks to Hutch mixing in a few photos from some less than memorable performances at 3-on-3 into our reviews recently, most people would think that's how I look all the time on the ice. Thank you for that, Hutch.
Battler, never gives up. That's Kevin Woodley when he's on the ice. So we've talked at length on this podcast about the great book out there that's called How to Be a Goalie Parent by Brian DeCord, Sense Arena ambassador. Incredible asset as far as leaning on how to unlock the different areas of Sense Arena and the VR world. So he's become a great resource to us. There's an article out this week in The Athletic discussing a new metric for goaltending, and it comes from Brian in a roundabout way. It's sort of one of the discoveries that Brian's come up with through his new app. You want to walk us through this, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, it's freeze rate, and the article, I think the article was meant to be about the app, which Hutch, you've used, and it's a fantastic tool for goalie coaches and goalie parents in the sense that very quickly, once you get comfortable with it, you can chart games and add an element of shot quality context to your young goaltender's performance. So if you're a coach going to the room with your head coaches and they're like, the goalie was crap, he gave up 4 tonight, you can look at your stats and either say, yeah, you're right, they probably only should have scored 3 and he gave up 4, or you can look at your stats and say, you know what? We're giving up so many grade A's here that the expected goals was 8. My guy only gave up 4, so maybe your defenseman might want to, tighten things up a little bit in front of them. So it's a fantastic tool for that. But I think what happened was the takeaway from the author in the article was one aspect of that tool is it measures what Brian calls freeze rate, and that's the ability to control play by basically killing play. So how many pucks do we hold on to on shots to get faceoffs? How many pucks do we freeze? Do we send out of play on low shots into the stands, or do we control with our gloves or body and not give up rebounds? So, and it became sort of an article unto itself in terms of this freeze rate. And it's been measured by public analytic companies in the past as well. You can use NHL play-by-play data to come up with a primitive version of freeze rate, which just how many times after a shot does the play end and there's a whistle. I think in Brian's case, it's more about controlling rebounds as well when you have the app. And so I started to look around a little bit. This led me to wonder, how important, like Brian thinks it's a real key identifier, like certain goalies hit a certain threshold. And so that's where the article went. And so I was curious because I got to think that like rebound control is important, right? Like it is a factor. And so started looking around to goalie coaches to see how they measure it. And I ended up talking with Mike Lawrence, who's coaching over in Switzerland. And he works with a guy, has been worked through pro goaltending and started working with him with his Swiss club, Thibaut Châtel. Hopefully I got that last name right, Thibaut. And we ended up, so he shared some data with me and we ended up going over it. And it was really fascinating because they call it kill rate. They've been measuring it for 3 years. And instead of freeze rate, they call it a kill. And it can either be ending a play or any controlled rebound. So one that goes into the corner where there's no danger, or one that gets kicked to a teammate on purpose. So taking in a little more context. And, it does become an important tool, but they've also created expected freeze rates. Just as we have expected goals based on shot quality, they've created a whole metric for, what types of shots should expect what level of freeze rate. Like if you got a point blank one-timer in the slot off a lateral pass, you just want to make that save, right? Like it's not, you're worried about that first and foremost. So the freeze rate on that or the kill rate for them might be a lot lower. Whereas a point shot that gets through with no traffic, you want a much higher kill rate. So it is interesting to have gone through this data. They've been doing it in the Swiss League for years. They've got just tons of sort of, tracking, and it's all done manually by Thibaut. And, it is kind of interesting to see that there are some big statements that can be made by it in terms of goaltending performance. It's around 66% is the average in the Swiss League. But the variation
66% what? Like
of shots are controlled.
Okay.
And so the variation though is interesting. Like there's not a huge swing. Like the worst in the league are 62, 63, and the best are like 68, 69%. So there's not a huge swing. And the other part of the equation is in their mind, they didn't see it as a necessarily an end all be all to evaluate goaltenders in terms of if he's got a good freeze rate, he must be good. And if he doesn't have a good freeze rate, he's not going to be good. But that it tied more to style. There were goalies who were active, smaller goalies who were having really good success in the league, but they were smaller and more active. They moved a lot more. They had a lower freeze rate or lower kill rate, but they were still successful goaltenders because they had the speed to recover to some of those rebounds. They got caught moving a little more, but then you had other goaltenders that had, they were a little more stationary, played a little more passively, and they had a better kill rate. But then they weren't necessarily good goaltenders because on the pucks that did get away from them, they didn't have the speed to recover when they didn't have a good one. So their successful saves so the goalie with the lower kill rate still made all the saves on the bad rebounds, and the goalie that had a better kill rate, when he did leave the loose change, he wasn't as likely to get to them. It was more about a style analysis of strengths and weaknesses, and that's a key component to it. But it also became a really good thing to learn how to score because you could see areas of weakness because they had it from what area of the ice created high rebound rates or low kill rates, what side of the blocker glove, like were there areas on a certain goalie where his numbers varied wildly, and could you then target that to create more rebounds and create more second opportunities? So in terms of overall evaluation, they didn't come up with any big broad statements like you have to be this level to be this goaltender. It was more that, the style and the strengths and the weakness of these guys showed up in their ability to freeze or kill these rebounds, and it became a really good assessment tool in terms of whether did these guys fit our team in free agency? Do their strengths and weaknesses fit there? Can we attack them if we're playing this guy in the playoffs? And so, just a ton of information there, a ton of data. It was fascinating to go through it all and see what you could pick out. And never would have thought to even ask the question if not for the story on Brian Decord's app and the freeze rate. So rambling a little bit, but just an interesting piece of the puzzle to me that I don't think we'd considered, and yet we would be pretty naive, I think, to think that goalie coaches in the National Hockey League weren't considering rebound control. as part of their formula for evaluating both their goaltenders and opposition.
You got me kind of spun up when we were talking about this, Kevin. It's fun, Darren. Kevin and I send text messages back and forth from time to time, just knowing we're lighting the other guy up and getting him going.
Yeah, Darren gets those too, but they go right to Chunk.
Yeah. So he got me spun up about this, saying, look, people are saying this isn't new. They've been doing it forever. Kind of knocking the app. I'm not talking about Mike Lawrence or anybody that Kevin has just referred to here, incidentally. But just that maybe the community was not excited about this. And I just want to point out here, I don't think that's the purpose of Brian's app. I don't think Brian is suggesting that his app is going to replace all the analytics that are happening at the National Hockey League level or in European pro hockey. I think the point is that here's a tool that goes well beyond any of the tools that have been in the hands of parents, minor hockey coaches, minor hockey associations, and so on. For years, we've seen the diligent volunteer or parent sitting in the stands tracking shots, and maybe they'll make a little tick mark as to where the shot came from, and some sort of crude analysis comes out of that. This is just a quantum leap forward in terms of what's available for parents, for goaltenders, and for coaches, and so on. Much more objective. For me, Kevin, you talked about expected rates there, expected goals. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from Brian's app. The ability to look at expected goals for a game, I just think is fantastic. There have been many times I've wanted to take game video and ship it off to Steve Valiquette and say, can you run this through your system for me to tell me what the expected goals should be? But of course, that's not available to people. And now finally it is. And so I think it's just a fantastic tool. Is Brian the first person to talk about freeze rate? No, of course not. But I think it is the first time it's available for the lay person to use. And incidentally, in terms of the freeze rate, he actually has it in 3 different categories. So it's not just crude. It's certainly not tied to shot location and so on. But he talks about glove freeze rate. He talks about rebound and playmaking freeze rates. I just think the tool being available to people is so important. And again, that expected metric, Woody, I'd love to have it in terms of freeze rate in Brian's app as well, because it's just that ability to sit down with a goaltender and more objectively analyze their performance by comparing it to what maybe it quote unquote should have been is such an advancement. I think I've used this example before. I tested it. I don't really use the app with my own son's games because I'm a stressed out parent and I'd rather be a fan than an analytics guy with my own kid. But I did use it for one game, and he had a rough game in terms of the scoreboard. And we were able to sit down afterwards and say, well, look, you actually outperformed expected on this game. And it's not the usual, oh, you had 50 shots and you let in 6 goals. It's not so bad, bud. It's a very objective model that shows with these particular types of shots, you should have given up 6, but you gave up 5 or whatever it was. I think it's just a great tool for young goaltenders and parents now. Rant over.
It reminds me, in listening to this, it's goal, good rebound, bad rebound, or no rebound. The old terminology that we used, but there's a way to quantify it now.
Yeah, it just goes a little deeper, and I think the point. I think the article. I think what happened was the article became about a statement about the value of freeze rate in terms of evaluating goaltenders. And I do think, and it's funny talking to Thibaut and Mike about their work and their research into this, they agree there is value. There's a ton of value in these metrics that Brian's talking about. They don't necessarily think it's definitive in terms of whether a goaltender can or can't play at a certain level, but there's still a ton of value in having the metric and analyzing it and being able to break it down, whether it's as an opponent or as a guy considering a goalie in free agency or assessing a goaltender for the draft. There is a ton of value there. Just it's maybe not as simple as this metric is going to tell you, in their eyes at least, whether this goalie is good or bad. It's right. It's rarely as black and white as that for any goaltender evaluation. And I think that's where a lot of the analytics community attacked the article itself, was because it was sort of presented as a defining statistic. And I'm not sure that's the case, even though it has a ton of value. And I know Brian believes in it heavily too, and others would agree in the value of it. being able to say good or bad based on this one thing is where the analytics community really pushed back. And the reality is they also don't have, what they have access to in terms of the publicly available version of this is just very primitive, because it's either you stop the play or you don't. Like, there are rebounds that are good rebounds, as you said, Darren. There are goalies that steer pucks to teammates and start breakouts. Those are good rebounds. Not all rebounds are bad rebounds.
Coaches should never be upset with rebounds, because then the puck's not going in that. That's number one.
That's what I tell my guys.
Yeah. Like, hey, coach, what's the alternative here? It could have went in the net. That's a good rebound. All right. Just cool it. Are we just maybe at the front edge of this though? Like, what's maybe the next step, or the two iterations of this is really when it's going to take hold?
I think absolutely we're at the front step. I mean, it wasn't very long ago that we were looking at save percentage, or gosh, before that, just goals against average as a metric that mattered in evaluating a goaltender at a very high level. And now we're moving beyond that, and it's informing what's happening with the position, and it's informing the people that are playing the position. I couldn't agree more, Woody, that if we take one of these things as a definitive stat, we're making a massive mistake. It's almost ironic that that's coming from the analytics community when really it's the eye test community would say that that's the problem with analytics, is they're trying to make things too definitive with the numbers and not employing the eye test. Maybe we could all meet in the middle here somewhere for something a little bit more rational. And absolutely, we're making steps forward, and that ability for somebody at home to be able to look at a game and be a little bit more objective in how they're doing their analysis. Yeah, I mean, these apps spit out pages of things that you can look at to evaluate what you're seeing on the ice, and it is absolutely only the beginning, but it's an exciting beginning for sure.
You just stumble on something that's unintended, and you fine tune it, and then it leads to what could end up being a staple in the goaltending community.
Well, and I would just say, Darren, absolutely, the process of using this app or any other app is very educational unto itself. You discover things in a game that you don't see simply by watching them. Soon as you're forced to look at every single shot and talk about where it came from, what the circumstances were, what the outcome of that was at 2 or 3 different levels, you start seeing things in a game that I don't think you see by merely watching the game and by merely counting shots. And I'm sure a very experienced coach evaluator can see deeper than the average person can, but you start having to make decisions. Was this a good rebound or was it not a good rebound? Makes you really think to a different level, because you start noticing those things like Kevin just talked about. Did it get steered to a teammate very much on purpose?
Well, I like
those sort of decisions.
There was a comment
great
in the article about pucks that go off the cuff of a glove as opposed to the goalie that catches the puck all the time. Like that kind of thing, yeah. It can really get into.
And that's part of the app, dude. One of the things you do is there's a separate little section as you're tracking specifically for the glove. And did you freeze it? Did you save it? Or did it go in? And those are 3 very different things. And some guys are going to be cleaner handling those things than others. But maybe we don't notice that unless we look. And it's not all about one individual game. It's going to be about a trend over a period of time, I believe. But yeah, just those little details, I think people don't necessarily pick out all the time. They just sort of get a feeling, oh, it seemed like that goalie was kicking a few too many out, or it seemed like he wasn't as clean with his glove. And now we have to look at it a little bit more carefully, and I think that's great.
Context, and we're just adding a ton of it to be able to evaluate performance that just never was there before. And so again, like to me, the rebound thing, part of that is you need to know the quality of the shot, because our expectations on rebounds, what sets us up to control a rebound? Being set, being square, being in position early, like all the fundamentals. And this is something that Brian points out in the article. Like guys who have good rebound control are usually guys who beat plays to spots and are set and square. You're less likely to control a rebound if you're getting there late, you're still moving, you're not set, you're not square, right? Because you're not in control. And so your ability to arrive and beat a play and be set and be square and make a clean save is also dictated by the quality of the shot coming at you. Was there a pre-shot pass across the slot line and a one-timer? And again, so every time we can add the context of the shot and the shot quality, it allows us to improve our evaluation of whether that rebound, whether it's good or bad, doesn't change, but whether our expectation of whether it should have been good or bad is realistic or not. Like, it's just context, context, context. And the more we can add, the more information we can add to that process, the better we are able to objectively judge goaltender performance. And that's why I love ClearSight Analytics. And that's why I love a tool like Brian's developed that allows you to take a look. And that's why I love guys like Mike Lawrence and Thibaut Châtel, who are willing to share some of this information and show us how they've been developing these things.
You've nailed the name now, Thibaut. You've nailed it.
Well, the first name's easy because he told me it's like Jocelyn. It's just, hopefully I haven't, Thibaut, I apologize if I got the last name wrong, but I appreciate all your time yesterday. I learned a ton, buddy.
I'd love to see, here we're talking about outcomes as we're evaluating what a goaltender does, and we're talking about the situation that preceded it from a player standpoint. I'm probably showing my ignorance here that somebody's probably doing this already, but can we track those things you were just talking about there, Woody, with respect to the goaltender? Was he set? Was he square? Did he beat it on his feet? Did he have to slide into it? What were the things the goaltender did that preceded that particular situation?
Well, and this is where you take the analytics, and this is where I love ClearSight, and then you look for you see if it matches the eye test, because you can find a trend. You say, I look through all these different shot quality metrics and I see something where a guy's really underperforming. You can isolate that type of shot, click one button, give you all the shots or all the goals, whatever you want of that type of play, hit play, and it runs through them. And now we can see, well, okay, is his rebound control poor because he's moving? And then you can also have comparative expectations. Is this because the shot was great and we can weigh the quality? Or is it because this guy's late? Like, does another goalie beat this? Is this something the goalie can fix, or is this a product of the environment? And again, our ability to evaluate goaltenders, you're right. Sometimes he was moving, and that's why. But if he's moving on plays where everybody else is beating it set and square, or the guys at the highest level are beating it set and square, you can look back at it and not just say, hey, this guy can't beat this set and square, he's no good. Maybe take a look at it and find, why? Is he too aggressive on the initial? Are we seeing trends in his game that we can fix as goaltending coaches to allow him to have more success? And on the other end, you got coaches looking at it going, saying, are there trends in his game that we can target to allow us to have more scoring success against him because he's getting caught in these situations because of this tendency? It's the giant cat and mouse game on both sides. And the more information, now we tie it to video and we look back and we can match the eye test to the stats and figure out why, either help the goaltender become better, or on the other end of it, find a way to exploit that tendency more often.
We got to get to our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina and Ben Bishop in just a little bit. We'll also head over to the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey. This is a fascinating conversation. Just to put a bow on it, on talking about rebounds, we're only a couple of years into the idea that you kick out rebounds and you want hot rebounds, or what's your terminology that you use, Woody?
Active rebounds.
Active rebounds. I watched 5 minutes of two-man advantage last night in the National Hockey League game that I was at, and Laurent Brossoit was the goaltender, and they were flying away, and that was a real defense against the two-man advantage that the Minnesota Wild had, both 5-on-3 and 6-on-4, and I seeing that in person was extraordinary and just eye-opening to me. And I don't know whether that's a good rebound, and because somebody could be there, or it worked out great, and it was amazing, and it was exactly what the pads are supposed to do.
Yeah, the Bauer pads, which are designed for active rebounds. And again, I think teams, we had this conversation with Bill Ranford, right? Like, teams are working that into their pre-scout. So they should know that this guy plays in pads that are going to generate more active rebounds. So don't get so close to the net because it's going to be tough to control that. So they are adjusting for those things. But the reality is, even if they make that adjustment, because there's two things a hot rebound, an active rebound off a Bauer pad does, and now CCM offering it in their eFlex 5, goalies like Thatcher Demko and Jacob Markstrom can choose the more active rebound foams in their product as well. And I think I've seen countless examples of that with Demko, and I'm pretty sure Stuart Skinner, making his debut the other night, had a couple ones that came off hot, and I was like, right away I watched the rebound, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's got he's got the rebound, the max plus rebound in that. Yeah. So anyways, the point is not just that it goes further away and buys you more time, but that guy standing at the top of the crease, right? If it comes off hotter, he has that fraction of a second less to react to how it comes off your pads because it's coming by him faster and getting there sooner, and there's less reaction time. So even if a team adjusts by going further away from the net to look for rebounds, that's an advantage to me as a goaltender because that buys me more time to recover. So I think that even as teams start to figure it out and look for it, it doesn't negate the advantage. Now, they might not be as likely to park on top of the crease and have it hop by them, but they're still, if they're parking further away, that's buying me time and space to recover. So, like, to me, yeah, exactly. And so to me, that's, I know some guys just want a softer pad and they want it to sort of stay close to them. But to me, the concept of a hot rebound is one that I would be all over as a goaltender. And you're right, Darren. For sure, 5-on-3 power play, things like that, where guys are around the net, there's an advantage there. You know where I love it? Every once in a while, I go to 3-on-3, and in those small rinks, like, it is a massive advantage in a tiny 3-on-3 rink. Those rebounds will actually become like breakout passes the other way. Even and it's not even on purpose. I'm not that good. I can't control it. It's just so damn hot that it's hitting the boards and going out the other way.
I was blown away by how much of a defense it was against the two-man advantage in particular, where they were able to really tee it up and lean into it. Hutch.
Well, now you're starting to hear conversations that we wouldn't have heard 10 years ago, as you watch goaltenders talk about the fact that, I need a new blocker because the rebounds just aren't coming off as hot as they used to. There's just a different level of what my gear is supposed to do. And now we're seeing different techniques employed. I mean, I remember going to goalie school as a kid, Darren, back when you and I were playing, when you were learning how to steer that blocker save onto the ice into the corner every time. And now kids, you're working with Eli Wilson in the summer, and one of his big things is up and over, up and over, up and over. Doesn't matter where that puck goes. Your blocker's got to put it over the glass. Different type of rebound control there, guys. The new technology and the hot rebounds are changing the game, and they're changing the conversation. I think it's really exciting.
Hey, when was the last time you saw somebody trap the puck on the blocker with their glove?
Oh, I know. That was a drill we used to do too.
That was the rebound control.
Okay, hold on. So first thing I was going to say was Ryan Miller it always amazed me because I hadn't seen anyone else do it, but he would regularly change the blocker board out of his Reebok /CCM blocker, the zipper at the top. So he would put a fresh board in, and it always amazed me to see how beat up the other one was because he's stopping hundreds of shots a day in practice. Second, as you guys bring that up, I kid you not, watched Mike Smith and Stuart Skinner doing that exact same thing at a morning skate here in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago. Smitty did that save, couple on the blocker side, sort of shots high to the blocker, and he pinched it with the glove in front of it, caught it with the glove in front of his blocker. And Stuart Skinner, again, I didn't have a chance to talk to him or ask him about this, but from the outside watching this, I think it was an aha moment. Like, there was a back and forth between them. Like, it was kind of like, as the young kid coming up, like, with all these new, steer it out of play, he's like, wow, like, you can do that? Like, it really looked like that from the outside. And so Schwartz, the goalie coach, Dustin Schwartz, and Mike Smith and Stuart Skinner, for the next few minutes, they were working on these shots, and Stuart Skinner was trying to pin them against his blocker and control it with his glove. So it still exists, boys. And clearly, thanks to the Jedi Mike Smith, it is being now taught down to younger levels as they watch it.
Oh, that just makes my whole day. Let's get over to our gear segment brought to you by The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports. Sorry, subscribe to the newsletter. It will change your life. Well, maybe not change your life, but it'll make your day better. That I can guarantee. It will make your day better. What's going on with Cam and company, Woody?
Well, we talked about sales coming up for Black Friday. We've got a little tease on one that's on sale now. SLR3 line, you're seeing it in the National Hockey League, and you know what that means. Two things. One, you can custom order it through Cam. You may not have it. You may not have samples at retail yet. You may not see it in stores, but you can buy this product. And if you want to buy it in a way that's going to fit your game, get all the specs, get all the details, and get it right, make sure you call Cam. The other part, SLR2 is on sale. So with a refresh on what the SLR2 line was all about and some of the features and unique qualities that it has, and there are some that I had forgotten, let's go check out Cam at the Hockey Shop and have him walk us through the value, not just in terms of what a good pad and product this is, chest protector and pants, but also you can get it on sale. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports, down here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv. And Cam has brought out a whole bunch of SLR2, which may have some of you scratching your head because, hey, it's NHL season. Why am I looking at SLR3 in the NHL and SLR2 at InGoal Magazine's Gear Review? Now, Cam is typically just behind the times, so I think you probably would understand that by now, but not when he's down here. This is where he actually catches up with the world. Like in his real life, like he lives like it's the 40s. But here, he's caught up. So why do we have SLR2? Because it's on sale, because SLR3 is coming. And before we get into the sale items and some of the features on the Vaughn SLR2 line and why you might like to take advantage of this opportunity to get it cheaper, a quick note that you can indeed custom order the same SLR3 gear that you're seeing in the National Hockey League on the likes of Alex Nedeljkovic and others, Darcy Kemper. You can get that gear now. Cam knows how to order it. He'll set you up with a spec sheet. He'll make sure you're getting all the custom features you want. If you don't want to go through that process, guess what? He's got this. So Cam, now that I've given you this beautiful introduction, insulted you only once or twice throughout the process, why don't you tell me what's on sale, how much, give me some details, and why we should consider the SLR2 as an option right now.
So for starters, those of you that, for example, like vintage goalie, you like your older gear after telling me I was living in the 40s and wearing 2 vintage hats, we have brand new things for you to try out and use.
I didn't appreciate the irony as I was saying it, but that's a good point.
It is, yeah. I hope you realize that one, eh? So SLR2, why it's important, why you should take a look at it. It's on for a great price, so that's always a great starting point.
Details. I need details. We are about precision and accuracy in the goaltending world. Give me some details.
We are. That does equate to about 20% off on almost all the pieces.
Okay.
That includes chest, pants, gloves, leg pads. I thought I was missing something, but I'm not. It's okay. We're on top of it.
You're missing something, all right.
And this includes the Pro Carbon as well for what's left over. SLR Pro, we're actually going to be having a few more pieces arrive, so keep an eye on the website, www.thehockeystop.com. Leg pads, some quick features that are definitely worth noting. Tight fit leg channel on what is marketed as a stiff pad. So this is something a little bit different. Most of the stiffer pads you see, you've got on, what would be considered a little bit on the looser side. This one fit quite snug around the leg. A lot of that had to do with their rotation strap, aka professor strap, aka rotation control strap, aka that tight thing that goes around your calf that a lot of guys do like.
That's the OG right there. That's they're the originator.
This is, and that's a Vaughn specific thing. Often imitated but never duplicated, I guess, properly.
I do like the fact that there's you got an elastic clip on this one here, so there's a little bit of flexibility there, but it's sort of tied in with lace on the inner edge, so you can actually move the height of it somewhat, a couple different spots to adjust sort of how it feels.
Completely.
Or take it off completely. That's what I would do because I'm old and original.
Vintage. So easy to strap up, Velcro system. You do get their quick slide material all along the slide or the slide surface of the pad. Does work out very well. Multiple users of the SLR equipment definitely did point out the ease of slidability within the pad. It's a great call out, great feature for sure. This is on the price point, the Pro they call it, and also on the Pro Carbon, which would be the top end. Again, great feature, great slidability. Bungee toe tie system, screw it on for those that don't like it. You can remove that and put on just one of their standard toe bridges if you do wish. Again, overall, pretty great pad for the price point. You know what? Again, something marketed as something that's supposed to be quite stiff, but does have some decent flexibility to it too as well. So definitely worth a look.
So, and this is the Senior Pro, but it's actually more like a senior line. Like it's not there. The Carbon is the top end line.
Carbon designates.
This is their second price point. But what a price point it is, like $767 for this pad with the sale right now. Canadian, does ship across the border for our American friends where your dollar is worth even more. So this is like practically a cup of coffee if you're in the US.
Yes, that much of a discrepancy.
Depends where you're buying your coffee.
Yes, yeah, well, that's true. And
like you said, there is a pretty good, flex profile to these as well. So some good options, Cam. You mentioned chest protectors, pants, gloves, blocker, all part of this sale as we wait for the SLR3 to arrive sometime early in the new year, hopefully, in terms of having it on the shelves in retail. But a reminder, in addition to getting this on sale, Call Cam if you've got questions about the SLR3 line from Vaughn. You can do custom orders right now, even if it's not in stores. And as we always say, if you need custom, if you want to make sure you get the gear that fits not just your body, but your game, Cam Matwiv is the guy to talk to. Him and his staff here at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. They'll set you up with the order sheet. They'll get you the custom features that you want. Make sure you check them out before you do any ordering or even consider the SLR3. And like we said, money to be saved on the SLR2. Cam, with those questions about either one, where do they get you?
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790.
It's not a rotary phone, folks. It's actually got buttons. He knows how to operate it. It's pretty remarkable for a guy who's stuck in the 40s.
You still got a pager. Get out of here.
I've got clients.
Thank you, by the way, for clarifying the Pro Carbon versus the Pro, because I was on the website and I saw that difference, and I was going through the pants and I was wondering that. So I didn't have to ask you. I just listened to the gear segment. So I appreciate that. Those are questions that I had, and you came up with it. Woody, you're like a Jedi. You know the answers before I ask the question.
Yeah, that's Cam. That's Cam. He's the smart one. I'm going to be nice to Cam now because I normally chirp him all the time. But since I chirp him so much in these segments, Hutch has started adding unflattering photos of me playing goal to the video. And that's a good reminder, folks. Mm-hmm. If you want to have a good laugh, either at how I look or the photos of me playing goal, make sure you check out the video segments that go with the gear segment. Each week we put it out there on our social media, YouTube, Instagram, IGTV, Facebook, all our usual spots. You can check out the sort of video simulcast. And when Cam's describing things, you can actually see the product. So check that out. I'm going to be nice to Cam because Hutch is getting revenge for me being mean to him by posting unflattering photos in those videos.
To be fair, he asked for help. Like, it wasn't this week's video, but there was another one that's up that he said, Hutch, you got to help me. You got to put something here. And then I got onto a roll. I've taken my fair number of shots at Cam over the years, too, you got to admit. So
he's an easy target. And let's be honest, so am I. So especially, I just can't allow you with a camera into the rink when I'm playing goal.
Yeah, it's kind of dirty pool on my part there because I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me, but it was just so easy. And I know you're so good-natured, Woody, so it's...
Well, I mean, and the other thing is,
it's a credit to you that I can do it.
I've never pretended that I don't suck, so it's okay.
Like a good comedian, you always got to loop it all back. Who's got a better freeze rate on the shots that you take at them, Woody or Cam?
Well, they both freeze as soon as the shot comes.
We didn't even rehearse that. That's outstanding. Looking forward to it and seeing what happens over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports. It's time for our feature interview, and it's Ben Bishop, Big Ben, mid-30s now. Didn't play last year, coming off knee surgery, and is still wanting to play. There's a lot of people that just think that he won't play again, that he wasn't going to play again. But this is significant in this conversation, and it's brought to you by Sensorina VR, Hutch.
Sure is. And this week, Sensorina announced that one of Ben Bishop's former teams, the Los Angeles Kings, have inked a partnership agreement with them. They've worked with the Kings for years, but now they are now the cognitive partners of the Los Angeles Kings. And I love the phrasing they've used there because they're making the point that this is not just hop into VR land and start making saves, but there's a whole suite of cognitive tools built in to Sensorina. And we don't talk about those enough. It's been a long time. It's not just the ability to learn to read the play, to read the release, to face shooters above your level, but there's a whole category of cognitive tools built in there so that you can go well beyond the bouncing balls off the wall, but you can actually learn to track pucks through the air. You can increase your reaction time. You can have to make some decisions as you're reacting to pucks. Heck, you can even do math problems as you're stopping pucks. So it is a cognitive tool that goes well beyond simply stopping shots. And now it's available for both players and goaltenders. And in fact, if you have a license for Sensorina, it gives you 2 licenses. So maybe you're buying it for the goalie in your house, but maybe mom or dad likes to play a little bit of beer league as well. Well, now they can hop on Sense Arena themselves to work on their skills as a forward or as a defenseman, and their decision-making skills especially. Really exciting what Sense Arena is doing. This is a tool that NHL teams like the Los Angeles Kings are installing for the use of their players and their goaltenders, and you can have it at home for yourself. And if you get it at home, get involved like Darren and Kevin with this global skills tournament that's going on right now. Every month, competition, face off against all the goaltenders around the world for supremacy, possibly ending with a trip to the Stanley Cup playoffs this year.
That would be cool. Be able to hook up with our friends at the Stanley Cup playoffs. That would be
Ooh,
wild.
I like that idea.
Sounds like a field trip.
That'd be a short drive for me to Edmonton. I can just go to Edmonton, right? Aren't that they're a wagon right now?
Wow, you're calling your shot.
No Mike Smith for a little while though, but we digress. We
Game
should probably
15.
get to Ben Bishop.
Game 15, Woody's calling a shot. It's 1928 all over again.
Listen, this is the closest we're getting to a cup. Have you watched the Canucks lately? The next
Woody
province
won't be busy in playoff season.
The next province over is the closest I need to. Let's just say that I got a golf trip booked for Bandon Dunes at the end of April with a bunch of buddies, and I was a little worried about it conflicting with the playoffs. I'm not so worried anymore here in Vancouver.
Looking forward to if we can all get together and break some bread over the Stanley Cup final and talk some goaltending. And right now, one of those conversations in the goaltending world revolves around the Dallas Stars and what they're doing with their net mining position. I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when Braden Holtby was signed for this year. Anton Hudobin, Jake Ottinger in the fold, and Ben Bishop is still under contract. And there is some insinuation or assumption that they made that move because Bishop wasn't going to be able to play again, or we weren't going to see him in a Dallas Stars uniform. Not so, because he wants to play, and Kevin Woodley had an opportunity to catch up with him in our Sense Arena VR feature interview.
What's the last year and a bit been like for you? Like, I'm watching you out there just busting your butt, working on practice, and that you haven't been able to get into a game for a while. How frustrating has this been? And you're a guy that's always smiling around the rink. Has it been tough to maintain what from the outside looks like just a true love for the game and the position throughout all this?
Yeah, it's been different. Obviously, it's been a process, I guess is the best word to use, because there had the surgery, the meniscus repair. So it's a 6-month, 8-month type of timeline. And it kind of, that timeline was coming up right at the end of last season. So, last season was kind of out of the question, even though we were trying, it just didn't work out. But it kind of worked out for the best because it gave me some more time to, keep rehabbing, get the knee stronger, kind of get used to, the new challenges of playing with, kind of the new knee, and kind of learning what works, what doesn't work, and just having that extra time. And then now this year, obviously, I haven't practiced until, this season. So it's nice to kind of slowly get back into these practices, go on with the guys, before and after, help them out. It's kind of nice, having 3, older goalies here, it gives everybody a little bit of a break. So keep those guys fresh, and it's still a process, still working towards that end goal of, getting back and playing.
What does it say? Like, credit to Jeff Reese, because I watch you guys, 3 goalies to manage in practice is not always easy. And yet you've got 3 guys who are so different. Like, what does that say about his ability to work with guys who have different strengths and like different things? Like I think it's a feather in his cap that doesn't get talked about a lot.
Right. Reeser's, he's got to be one of the best, out there. He's one of those guys that, he works towards your strengths. He doesn't necessarily he doesn't change anything. He doesn't tell you to do something a different way. He takes what you do well and works with you to, tone those skills and, work on them. And then every now and then he might throw, a suggestion in there, but it's different too, right? Because, Dobie's Dobie, Holtby's, he had an unbelievable career, sound goal. He does everything, really well. And then I'm, kind of that bigger guy that's a little deeper and a little more relaxed. So, those guys are obviously the ones that are playing right now. So they take everything they want to take. For me, it's just kind of getting in there before and after. And if they want to, a breather in the middle of a practice, I'll go in and take some shots. So it's worked out well so far. Obviously, it's not something you want to deal with all season. Hopefully we can, figure out, what's going to happen here sooner than later. But right now it's working well.
You still have fun out there? Like,
Oh yeah, I love it. You know, I
looks
think that's the thing is, not skating last year, not getting to practice once or play. That's, just being back out there with the guys right now. That's, you love it. That's what you do.
Where'd that come from growing up in St. Louis? Like, where did I know you played out before you were a goalie. Was it you going like, I love goal, I got to be a goalie? Like, where did that drive to be a goalie
No, not
come
at
from?
all. It was really just one of those things. I played hockey. I was a forward for, the first however many years. Everybody took a turn playing goalie. I was pretty good at it. I enjoyed it. I was one of those guys that, liked being out there the whole game, didn't like coming off. So I got to play the whole game. It just kind of went from, obviously doing it because you love the game. And then slowly you kind of got better. And then I was stuck in goal, but I liked it. So it wasn't like I ever complained about it. And then, growing up in St. Louis back then, there really wasn't, much guidance as far as what to do, how to do it. I think Mike McKenna was just a couple of years ahead of me. So he kind of helped, pave the road a little bit. So it was just one of those things. You're just playing it for fun. And then one thing led to another. And next thing you know, you're here.
Was there a point where you remember thinking like along that development path where it was like, hey, I could, like, not only is this something I'm good at and I enjoy, but where it became serious, like, hey, this is something I could do for a long time and at the highest levels?
It wasn't until I got drafted in the USHL by Tri-City, and then I went to the camp, and I got drafted by the Texas Tornado in the NAHL. Went to the USHL camp. They told me to go play for the North American League team. They basically got cut, and so I went down there, and same thing, 2 goalies. I didn't even know if I was going to, make the team or what was going to happen. Made the team. Started playing there, and it wasn't until like a couple months into the season, and even then, we had a good team down there, so it was fun. We were having, playing well, and it wasn't until like a month or 2 into the season, the coach was like, "You're on the, NHL Central Scouting," and then, all of a sudden these colleges came to start watching, and then it was just like one of those things where I went from maybe, not even making a junior team to 2 months later, I'm, colleges are looking at. So it wasn't until my senior year of high school and a couple months into my junior season where I was like, oh, maybe I can go play college and I might get drafted now. So it all like went quick, but it was a lot of fun. I played for, great team down there, the Texas Tornado, which really helped me kind of moving forward.
The game has evolved so much since back then. Like, what was your experience? Like you said, in St. Louis, not a lot of goalie coaching, not a lot of sort of the technical side of the game. When did you sort of get your first sort of experience of that side of it? And is there a benefit? Like, your ability to read and anticipate and things like that are also exceptional. Do you think that's honed by the fact you didn't get too technical too early?
Yeah, I didn't have a goalie coach until my freshman year of college. That was the first time I ever had a goalie coach. So before that, it was all just kind of do it on your own. Obviously, you had some people that helped along the way. That there's a guy in St. Louis, Lindsey Metalbrook, when I was a little kid, but that was, he was probably teaching me skate saves back then. So he was there in St. Louis, but other than that, no, there was nothing. Just played hockey, played other sports. It wasn't until, I think my freshman year of high school where I just started playing hockey. Kind of had to drop the other ones because there was no time. So, it wasn't until my freshman year of college, Grant Stanbrook, who's one of the, best
Legends.
ever. Yeah. So I got to work with him. And even he was not a technical goalie. He was more working on skating and edges and like out on the blue line around the dots, not in the crease. So he was more of that. And then he would kind of tell me tidbits. And it really wasn't until I had Wammer for a bit, but he was in St. Louis. But it wasn't until Corey Hirsch came to Peoria. He's the first guy I had that really like toned me down. He's like, all right, you got to play deep in your crease, use your size. So I owe a ton of credit to Corey Hirsch. He's the one that really turned my career around.
Well, he's doing radio here in Vancouver, so I'll have to give him a plug. So you're in the American Hockey League, and that's the first time somebody tells you to play a little deeper. What was your style to that point? And do you think having to sort of rely more on reads to that point and just sort of play on instinct, again, is a positive looking back at it?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, like I said, the first goalie coach I had was Grant Stanbrook in Maine. And what I was telling you, it was, he wasn't much of a technical guy. It was just kind of, worked on your skating. He was, pretty good as, talking about the mindset. And he'd obviously had, I think the previous 8 goalies had played in the NHL. But he wasn't much of and he was an older guy at that point as well when he was coaching me. So, and then I went to sign with the Blues, and in the American League, we had Wammer, and Wammer was more movement, back and forth and like up and back, kind of more a little old school. And then I had Belfour for a minute. He was the goalie coach there for a couple months.
I feel like I got to ask what that was like.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. He was great. He was unbelievable. He taught me a lot in the little bit that he was there. He only made a few trips up there, and then I think it was just too much for him living in Texas. And then when Hershey kind of came in, Hershey was the first goalie coach we had that was spent quite a bit of time with us. I think he was just the American League goalie coach.
Okay.
So he spent a lot of time, and he was the one, coming. I think he was with, had worked with Sean Burke, and he was like, you need to, stay in your crease or stay in the blue paint. You're big enough. You got all the skills. I was just kind of being too active. So he's the one that really set me back and kind of, almost made the game a little bit easier.
Now, being too active, though, I'm guessing, again, being a big guy, and if you're active, that means you got to move more, which means you have to be less margin for error. Like when we hear guys back up, it's about sort of making the game simpler. But to survive out there, I've heard this about prospects where, NHL teams will look at them and they'll be like, man, he's really aggressive for his size, but he gets away with it. And that shows, again, good instincts and reads. Like there's maybe some value in having come up that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was just still so raw at that point, never really having too much coaching. So it wasn't until, Hershey, he helped. And then I got back to Ottawa with Wammer. But at that point, when you're in the NHL, you have a full-time goalie coach. So he's with you every single day. So, the minors, we didn't have that. You were on your own kind of. So once you've, got to the NHL level, then you had guys that you worked with every day and you could kind of work with each other and fine-tune things. And so, yeah, before that, it was just kind of just extremely raw.
Now, a lot of different voices there too, right? You said even though it wasn't full-time, and that can be tough sometimes for goaltenders that move around, whether it's up and down American Hockey League or from team to team. How did you manage that? Because sometimes, I've talked to guys over the years where you go to a new team or you get a new voice and they want you to do something and you can get caught between what you think is best for you and trying to please the guy who might decide whether you start or how much you play.
Right, exactly. At the end of the day, you're the one doing it. So whatever you do out there, it's your own decision. So, even though, like I said, in the American League, you had somebody come down and like kind of try to help you out, but then he wasn't there. So it wasn't like you were talking to him every day. So you were still doing your own thing. But then when Hershey came in, he kind of settled me back. And then I went back to Ottawa with Wammer, and Wammer had kind of changed his philosophy just to like a little bit. He's still like, getting, out and then coming back type deal. And
little flow.
A little flow. Yeah, exactly. That's the word he used as well. And then, but I had kind of incorporated that, deeper play and just kind of using my size more to my advantage. So I enjoyed it, the goalie coaches I've all had, because it's nice to hear what other people think. And I have never had a goalie coach that said, I've been lucky, that do it this way. This is how we're going to do it. Like, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I've never had that. I had Reeser, Franz, Wammer, Hershey, and Grant Stanbrook. So, and then a little bit in LA. So, with Billy, I've never had anybody have that type of attitude, which is, can't imagine playing for a goalie coach that was like that.
Right.
So it's
no
always
dictatorships.
It's been good. And it's also great to learn. You learn a little bit from each goalie coach. So you can take a little bit from them and take a little bit from that. And like I said, at the end of the day, you're the one that's doing it. So you kind of find out what works, you work on it in practice. And then when you go into the game, it's kind of nice to have had all those different, opinions and, some, good goalies that have played in the league and, have experience. So it's nice to learn from, different guys.
What about guys you played with? Who are some of the guys that jump out? I think the one, I've heard a lot of guys tell me about what, like the guy like Craig Anderson, like the way he reads releases and the things guys still talk about the way he reads releases and how successful he is with that and how good he is at that. What were some of the voices that you picked up things along the way from?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to play with a lot of different guys, a lot of different styles. Craig is definitely a feel it goalie, right? When he's on and he's feeling it, he can make it look easy and make guys look silly, and he just kind of goes with the flow. I wouldn't say he's definitely not a technical guy.
Not a technician, no.
No, and then, I got to play with Quickie for a little bit in LA, and that was a lot of fun just seeing how he does it. And then, playing with Godobin, I've had some good partners along the way. I played with Nabokov. That was in Abbey. That was a lot of fun. Obviously, he was a little different. So I haven't played with too many guys that play like me. So it's I haven't been able to really, learned too much from some of the guys I've played with, just because obviously you do, but they've all played extremely different than me. I got a chance to play with Manny Legacy, Alex Ald, Ty Conklin, Mason, just great guys. I really don't have one bad thing to say about any of those guys. But you just pick up things watching them, I guess. Little things here and there. But yeah, I can't say, if I've learned one thing. I've watching Quickie with his stick around the net, kind of going stick on stick, putting his, blade on the other guy's blade. That was kind of fun to watch that. That was something I picked up from him. But just little things here and there.
Now, you just mentioned nobody plays like you. How would you describe your style? And what allows you to have had so much success over the years? What do you think the keys are to it? When you, especially coming back after a long absence, what are sort of the foundations, the things that I need to feel this and feel good about this because that's my game?
Well, I think just the style, playing deeper. It's all about the reads, reading the rush, reading the players, kind of reading like you said about Craig, reading it off the stick. That's when, I'm at my best, when I'm, kind of seeing the play before it happens. And it's about just kind of getting that back right now and, keeping the game simple. Grant Stanbrook always said you want to play like, the bubble hockey goalie there. You want to be that short little movement, play like a 90-year-old man. So that's kind of might be the way I'm going to have to play when I come back. But just kind of that, learning the reads, anticipating before it happens.
That's funny. I've heard Grant Stanbrook's name a lot because Alfie Michaud's been a guest on the program before and still a legend at the University of Maine. So it's good to know some of those lessons are still paying off. When you left Tampa, Vasi still talks about you and the mentorship role you played for him. If you had an opportunity now to go back and talk to, say, rookie Ben Bishop or second-year pro Ben Bishop, what would you say to him? What would the advice be, the first thing? I guess the game's changed so much since then.
I was lucky that I had good mentors, and, Manny Legacy was great to me, and Ty Conklin was great to me, and Mason was unreal to me, and even Alex Ald when I got to Ottawa, he was kind of on his way out. So they were all good mentors to me, and I think that's why when Vasi came up, I just kind of, those are the way those guys helped me out. I was going to help this guy out too. And, you look at Vasi, he has, every single tool. It's so impressive. I think he's going to go down as one of the best ever, all time. And just to see that from the first skate, I tell people, like, the first couple times I saw this guy on the ice, I'm like, this guy's going to be unbelievable. Like, you just knew it right away. It wasn't like played with some good goalies, coming up, but he was in a different league. So it's a lot of fun to watch him. And, it was neat to see him because he was so young and he was still learning the language. He was so eager to learn from me too, which made it more fun to kind of teach somebody that, he wasn't that great at, handling the puck, but now you look at him and he's, unbelievable at handling the puck. And he worked at his craft so hard at a young age and still does. And that's why he's still arguably the best ever or in the game right now.
So stick handling, also a strength of yours. Advice for kids to work on that? Because it's one of the things that I think can be a real separating skill for goalies now. And yet sometimes, whether it's minor hockey or even goalie camps, there's not a lot of emphasis on it. I noticed today you're doing a drill where you're basically out there as a target for the guys who are getting bag skated. But at the end of every rep, Reese's throwing a puck into the corner and you're playing it. Is that an example of just you got to find times to work on those things yourself? Or
Absolutely. And for me, it was just, I played forward for the first 4 or 5 years of my career, and I just loved handling the puck. I loved scoring goals when I was younger, and even when I was coming up and I started just being a goalie, I was that guy before practice. I was skating around shooting pucks. I wasn't necessarily like stretching or doing technical stuff. I was just messing around with the puck, and even in the garage, I was always shooting pucks with a goalie stick, and I just always, even to this day, before and after practice, I love, passing pucks and shooting pucks.
I saw in the power play drills, you were actually out there at the top, sort of like the top of the umbrella, passing pucks to the one time on either side.
It's just something I love messing around with it. I've always want to have a puck on my stick. One of my favorite parts about playing in a game is when, we have the power play and the chance of them dumping the puck in my end, and then I get a chance to play it. That's one of my most, I love that part of the game, hoping to make a play. So it's just something I've done as a kid, my whole, way up. It's just messing around. You don't have to work on it really. You just have to grab a puck and go around and, shoot pucks, pass, but like mess around. It doesn't have to be a drill. It could just be, get out there early and just skating around with the puck.
That's it's funny. We've heard that from Marty Berger. We've heard it from a lot of the great puck handlers of the game. It's really just about finding opportunities in practice to work on it.
Yeah, and I would say just when you're learning, like passing the puck, you want to like pass it as hard as you can. I remember like when I was a kid playing catch with your brother or something, you're throwing the ball as hard as you can every time. My mom would always yell at me. But even when you're passing the puck in practice, you want to try to pass it as hard as you can, just so you could kind of get used to, that speed and making a crisp hard pass.
Your dad was a pro tennis player.
Grandfather was.
Oh, your grandfather. Okay,
Yeah.
they had it wrong on there. Did you? Were other sports? You mentioned this. I know. Like I've seen you when you get to go to the batting practice. Like just, knocking it out of the park. What do you think other sports are important to you?
100%, especially for the goaltending position. I think that's arguably the most important thing for young goalies is to play other sports. Parents ask me all the time what they could do, and it's about learning the coordination or getting the coordination of hitting a baseball, ground balls, catching fly balls, dribbling a basketball, all those different things, to work on your hand-eye and coordination. You get it from other sports because at that young age, you don't want to be just playing hockey 24/7. Obviously, as a kid you do, but there's other, benefits coming from playing other sports. And I was lucky because in St. Louis growing up, you never thought you're going to play pro hockey. So, I played tennis, golf, baseball, basketball, football, soccer. It wasn't until my, freshman year, tried out for baseball, made the team, but then it was, couldn't do it. So that was, my freshman year was finally when I had to just focus on hockey. Before that, I played, different sport every single season.
It's funny because I know like guys like Lundqvist use tennis and racket sports in the off season to train. It makes sense because it's lateral movement on your feet and eye-hand coordination. Was tennis something you used in the off seasons at all?
Yeah, I played tennis every day as a kid growing up, and then obviously the older I got, I didn't play it as much. I played tennis every day, every Tuesday to Friday as a kid, and then you'd go to golf lessons and swimming practice in the morning, and then soccer practice at night or baseball at night, and hockey twice a week. So
physical literacy.
It was just one of those things, and the love was always there for hockey, but even then you only practiced twice a week as a kid. That's just the way it was, and then a couple games on the weekend. So it wasn't like it was every single day.
Size. Obviously, we see teams chasing it now. Everybody wants square footage in net. But when you came up, I'm not sure we were there yet as a league or as a mindset towards goaltenders. Like, was there ever a point where people told you were too big, or where you felt like your size was something you had to overcome as opposed to a strength?
No, I didn't think it. I never had a crazy growth spurt. I was always just the tallest. It wasn't like one year I just shot up and then I was that tall. So I think that's what helped with my coordination as far as not ever having to go through that awkward phase. And then I think it's just as the league's evolved, I think you're just seeing it kind of across all sports. You're seeing just these kids they're bigger and they're more athletic, and it's just kind of, I don't think there's just these tall goalies that teams are chasing. I think it's just maybe some of the forwards aren't as big as they used to, but everybody's just more athletic now. And
we see Vasi at 6'4". He moves as well as anyone who's 5'10".
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's just the game's evolved, especially that position. You just find more guys that are athletic and that size and that want to do it. And I mean, nobody knows they're going to be that tall when they're that young. Usually when they fall in love with goalies. So I think it's just the way the game's evolved. You just have more kids that are more athletic and better skaters and kind of that.
Do you marvel at how it's evolved sometimes when you watch the way goalies move? When I started doing this in the early 2000s, I remember back then there'd be guys in the NHL that would tell me they'd go to camps in the summer and 13-year-olds were doing proper leg recoveries. And in the NHL at that time, not everybody did it, right? Now you watch some of these kids, they move around on their knees. I think it's Shesterkin and obviously Vasi. They move around on their knees as well as some guys skate.
When I came in, I was with Manny Legacy and Ty Conklin. And there just wasn't as much emphasis on the technical side. There wasn't as much, post play. I mean, there was, but the way that it was played was different.
Yeah.
And the way that guys can get into the reverse now and pop in and out of it, I think that's kind of how it's evolved the most. And I was kind of on that train. I think right when I was in college, when I started doing that reverse or the one knee down, the
traditional VH.
Yeah. And so that's what it started. But yeah, I mean, there's still so many different styles, even in today's game. I think some of the guys are so technical, but you don't have to be. You look at, Dobie, he's not the most technical goalie, and sometimes he'll play, the same play different 3 times, but all 3 times he finds a way to stop the puck. And then at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So
can there be a benefit to that unpredictability in an era where we've got shooters now growing up looking for certain butterfly tendencies? Can, some of the guys feel, if I throw a different look at them, that might not be a bad thing every once in a while.
Right, I think so. And I think that's what's made, look at like Craig Anderson, Dobie, like these guys successful for such a long time because they are unpredictable. And, I don't know if the being technical, I think that's what separates every goalie's so technical now, so young, and it's the guys that can read the game that are ones that make it. So it doesn't matter how good technically, you still have to learn how to read the game and when to stand, when to go down, what's the, proper technique at that time. And I think the guys that learn how to, read the game and, kind of predict what's going to happen before it happens are the ones that make it because they're all so good technically now.
Ben, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm going to let you go. Puck's going to drop here. We got to get up and watch a game. But thank you so much for your time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you back on the ice making all those great reads sometime soon again, too.
Anytime. Thank you.
Best phrase in that entire interview, what a good guy, Ben Bishop, was "when I come back." And we wish him all the best. What an opportunity to spend some time with him, and we appreciate that little visit with Ben Bishop and Kevin Woodley, or should I say the goalie whisperer, Kevin Woodley. Hutch, is that what he's going to go by now?
Well, it used to be face of the franchise. Now it's goalie whisperer. We used to tease him a little bit around here with face of the franchise. But now that he's made his guest appearance as co-host of the famed 32 Thoughts podcast, where they are calling him the goalie whisperer from In Goal Magazine, I think that one's going to stick. And honestly, congratulations, Kevin. That's big. One of the biggest hockey podcasts in the world. And for them to call on you to sub in, to come in as an emergency backup.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait to listen to it.
As if you guys don't have to, listening to me here isn't enough. Now you got to listen to me somewhere else. No, thanks to Jeff.
Hey, but by the way, and as you look at the preamble to this podcast, they do mention that it's part 1. I'm pretty sure they booked you for 1 only, and you talk so much it had to be 2 parts.
Listen, in my defense, I was told we would be on for an hour to an hour and a half, so I stuck within the parameters, and then I guess those parameters were dictated 2 parts. So what do we call it? We call it Woodley time. So I guess maybe it wasn't appreciated on a length standpoint. But hey, listen, super honored that Jeff Merrick reached out and asked me to be on the podcast. And a lot of the stories that I tell there are ones that you've heard here, folks, and will be familiar with. So we went through all sorts of aspects of different goaltending stories. So it was a fun appearance, and Jeff made it easy and made me relaxed, and it was a good time.
I look forward to some new people in our audience in the next couple of weeks because of the exposure on 32 Thoughts. Thanks for spreading the word on behalf of goaltenders everywhere. Did you take that 2-part series, that hour and a half philosophy, and then bring it into this episode? Because we went deep today.
Yeah, we pushed it. I got a lot of time on my hands these days, guys. The Canucks are out of town, so I'm just rambling on endlessly.
Anything going on over at In Goal Mag?
One thing that's really big over at In Goal, guys, is not 1, but 2 pro reads up this week, both looking at 3-on-1 situations and both with goaltenders who are new to the pro reads family. Curtis McElhenney looks at a beautiful save he made on a 3-on-1 that ended up on the back door. And Braden Holtby, in fact, speaking of the Dallas Stars, one of his saves with Dallas against the Los Angeles Kings, also a 3-on-1 scenario. Both very different, both talking a little bit about the defensive coverage that's involved, the reads that are being made as a result of what they know their defensemen's responsibilities are, what theirs are, and then obviously the options that are dictated by the offense that's coming at them as well. So love both of those, sort of a 2-for-1 special this week on Pro Reads, and we always talk about that being one of the biggest foundations of In Goal, and I would really suggest people get over there, check them out. Great way to learn is to listen to pros talk to you about their game.
2-for-1s, talking about 2-on-1s, kind of all.
Yeah, we need one more. So it really is a 3 in 1 week, but we'll have to go through the archives, see if we can get one put together.
Again, congratulations to Zach Vicali for his National Hockey League debut and a shutout. The journey and what it took to get there overshadows a little bit that the guy was perfect in his first game and picked up a win.
Mic drop.
See you later. No, he worked so hard to get there.
Yeah. He's not going anywhere now.
Onto the mic. Woody, congratulations on your endeavors. Really proud of you and happy, and can't wait to see some of the new people that join our dressing room in the next couple of weeks, and appreciate what we had with Ben Bishop as well. That was fun. And Cam over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Black Friday sales coming. It's a furious time right now in the world of goaltending. We'll chat with you next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast.